House Speaker Kevin McCarthy weighed in late this evening on his decision to give Fox's Tucker Carlson first dibs on footage from January 6. Footage which so far Tucker Carlson has used to portray the Capitol attack as something it was not. The Speaker's remarks come on a day that saw several Republican senators criticize his decision, and hard on the heels of last night's document dump in Dominion Voting Systems case against Fox. Documents revealing that Carlson's contempt for the former president, for his viewers, and for the facts. We'll have more on that shortly. First, though, some of what the Speaker just said.
The one thing I always want to make sure is this Capitol is protected and secured. I want to make sure the officers here have everything they need to provide that. My whole role for January 6th is just to bring transparency. People can make their own decisions with that.
Well, that's not all he said on the subject. Armando Raju found out when he pressed the Speaker. He joins us now. So McCarthy held this press conference today following a Congressional Budget Office report on the debt. What did he say about the January 6th security footage, and how much concern, are you hearing from members of the House? Because members of the Senate have spoken out, but it doesn't sound like a lot of House members are Republicans.
Yeah, a lot of House members are aligning themselves with Kevin McCarthy. There are some who are concerned about Tucker Carlson's portrayal of the events. And one of the people who is concerned about this is the Capitol Police Chief, who said in a memo yesterday that it was offensive, it was misleading, it cherry-picked Tucker Carlson, the way he had portrayed that footage from the Speaker of the House. That also was what Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell aligned himself with, that he was also concerned about its portrayal, about what happened, how serious the violence was when Tucker Carlson claimed, based on this footage that he got from Kevin McCarthy, that it was a mostly peaceful day. So that's why I asked Kevin McCarthy at this press conference about whether or not he agreed with Carlson's portrayal that it was a mostly peaceful day, and the Speaker was combative. The Capitol Police Chief and the Senate Republican leader both raised concerns about the footage that you gave to Tucker Carlson, the way he portrayed it. He portrayed it as a mostly peaceful day. Do you have concerns with that portrayal?
You know, you asked the same question yesterday, and let me walk you back through that. The Capitol Police Chief, we went to them and asked, is there any clips in the process of where you see, tell us any warnings? He only had one, and we cleared it up. Lo and behold, Swalwell had already put that clip out on the internet for the last year and a half. I'm not sure if you asked, based upon any of those, about what you did with CNN. When CNN told where the leaders were taken, a secret place where they told us we couldn't even tell people. I know, and I'm answering your question. You can ask whatever question you want, but I have the right to answer your question. I'm answering his question, thank you. When CNN told the American public that we were at Fort McNair, I don't know if we can go back there. I don't think that's even changed. But you have now told your network, the entire world, where we go. I didn't hear one question from your network either when you would know when subpoenas were released before anybody else. I didn't know that your network got upset when you sat in Statuary Hall, when nobody else networks got anything. And I'm not sure your network got upset either when you had the Speaker of the House daughter do a documentary filming where we are in a secure place, walking through this when people weren't supposed to know. So now you're upset that we allowed somebody else just to have transparency. Now the Capitol Police was able to see it, and you know what the Capitol Police told us too is that January 6th committee never asked them. So I thank you for your question.
Mono, before we go on, I do think it's important to address some of what he said, because a lot of that is just red herrings. His statements about Fort McNair and Speaker Pelosi's daughter was in reference to a documentary by Alexandra Pelosi, who is a noted documentarian. We aired portions of that broadcast on CNN. Capitol Police saw every piece of footage that we aired in order to make sure it didn't raise security concerns. As for CNN knowing of when subpoenas were going to be released before anyone else, we have some really good reporters who did stuff, who found that out and staked out areas and saw people coming and going from courthouses. And as for his comment about Statuary Hall, we can only guess it was a reference to interviews that Jake Tapper and I did with lawmakers there on the one-year anniversary of January 6th, which we did from Statuary Hall because we were invited to. There's nothing secret about what we were doing there. So now that we've dispensed with that, what are lawmakers saying today about this?
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing some more concerns from members. You mentioned some House members who mostly have been aligning themselves with the Speaker of the House. There are some concerns from House members. One of them, Dan Newhouse of Washington State, told me that he is concerned about this revisionist history. I heard that also from Senator Mitt Romney, who told me that any effort by a news organization to try and portray what happened here was anything other than a vile and disgusting attack on our democracy is outrageous. But you're seeing some very close allies to Kevin McCarthy take a bit of a different approach. In fact, they are planning to press ahead with their own investigation into January 6th going forward, but not about Donald Trump's role or about what was uncovered by the January 6th Select Committee in the Democratic-led Congress, but to actually look at what the Democratic Select Committee did in and of itself. Barry Loudermilk, who is a chairman of a subcommittee here in the House, told me that he plans to look into the January 6th Committee investigators themselves and look into any holes in their investigation. It's not entirely clear what that means, though, Anderson, but that is going to be a focus here. And Anderson, Kevin McCarthy did not want to make January 6th a focus in this new Congress, but by his recent moves, he effectively has.
Congressman Kinzinger, it is, I mean, just extraordinary when you think about what Carlson is doing about rewriting history and, you know, on this incredibly important day on January 6th and what happened on that day. And this whole move among more extreme wings or elements in the Republican Party, especially in the House, to sort of make the people who committed crimes on that day and are serving time because of that, make them into some sort of political prisoners and, you know, QAnon followers as if they are some sort of heroes.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. It's really, I mean, I look at this and I say, you know, what's the end game here? You know, what is it that they actually want to do? I think it's just day by day. How do we win primaries? How do we make the base happy? How do we get that bigger and bigger dopamine hit? And you see what Tucker Carlson does. He takes any, I mean, I could take footage from World War II and find like a little piece of that and convince somebody it's the moon landing because you can find anything.
I thought about, I mean, look at like Vietnam. You know, there's plenty of footage of Marines and soldiers at their bases, you know, hanging out in Saigon, you know, in off time. I mean, you can take video of anybody in the course of a day when something is not happening. And then if you can't say that the Vietnam War wasn't violent and people weren't getting killed, I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And look, the whole thing is he's disparaging law enforcement, too. I mean, keep in mind, the Republicans say, hey, we want January 6th to go away. It's time to move on. It's time to go forward. That's when the facts are coming out and it makes them look bad. Now they're trying to rewrite that narrative for the 30%, and they're holding on to it. Look, Tucker Carlson disparaging law enforcement. I want to make a point, and they're, you know, most of these cops will say 20, 30, 40 years old. When Tucker was in his 20s and 30s, like this is what he was doing. He was out there wearing a bow tie, you know, talking, writing stories, and he's disparaging these people that have taken an oath to defend the Constitution, to defend the House, to defend the Senate, and to defend America. How dare him, especially in light of the fact that he knows better, and you can see that on the text messages.
He's also changed. I mean, there was a moment when he saw the writing on the wall, and he saw he needed to revamp his career. He was trying to do some stuff that, you know, he sensed in the Republican Party they didn't like, and he followed the crowd. And I mean, that is the path he is on, and it's become, I guess, very profitable for him. I'm sure he has a big contract. I'm sure he's, you know, doing very well. But it's extraordinary the way he has shifted. Congressman Schiff, when Speaker McCarthy rejected your appointment to serve on the House Intelligence Committee in the current Congress, he sent a letter to Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries that, quote, I cannot put partisan loyalty ahead of national security. Is there any other way to look at what he's done with Tucker Carlson?
No, there isn't. There isn't. You know, plainly in giving over surveillance video to someone who would do exactly what Adam is describing, and that is use it to try to rewrite history, to denigrate the law enforcement that day. McCarthy knew exactly what he was doing, and it had nothing to do with the institution or interests of our democracy. It only had to do with appeasing the most extreme elements of his conference and placating the base and fundraising. That's all that Kevin McCarthy is. What is most remarkable to me, Anderson, is the American people saw what happened that day. You can't ignore those images. And yet the power of repetition is such that, people like Tucker Carlson, who know they're lying to the public, can convince tens of millions of people of those lies. I tell you, it's been really illuminating to me about other periods of history where you had other liars use a powerful megaphone and convince millions that they can't believe what they've seen. And you wonder, how is that possible? And now we see how that's possible. When you have people who have no love of country, no patriotic fiber, when it's just all about the money, then this is what happens. And for Tucker Carlson, through his many iterations, he's no different than Rupert Murdoch. It's all about the money and nothing else really matters.
Congressman Schiff, Adam Kinzinger, I appreciate your time.